Well, hey, everybody. If it's Friday night, this is the Quantum Wellbeing Show. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. And turnabout is fair play. Aage, tonight, I actually want to say thank you, Aage, for being here and sitting in the hot seat. I'm sure everybody is sitting on the edge of their seats to hear what we're going to talk about tonight. And as always, guys, I just want to lead with gratitude. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for your super chats. And we would love to invite you to join us on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern at the Mastermind Connection. It is a spiritual think tank where we get together and put our thought energy, our spiritual thought energy into visualization for benevolent and beautiful outcomes, not only for the world, but for individuals, their pets, people, and actually we've had some miraculous healings that have happened there. So if you would like to join us, send an email to themastermindconnection, all one word, @gmail.com. Aage will send you the link and you can come see what it's about and hang out with us. I just want to do a shout out for our friends over at the Conscious Awakening Network. Sheila and all of the usual suspects are over there. There's some great shows going on. We're streaming there and here and together. You can find Broadcast Team Alpha on like 40 platforms. Like I said last week, I turned the TV on one day, which I don't do often, probably more than I've ever done in the recent past. And there's Aage on YouTube TV, right on the TV that I was like, oh my God, there's Aage. So thank you. Totally lost my train of thought on that one. So that's it. Okay, so we're streaming on like 40 platforms, and that's really exciting. And we ask you to help us grow. We are trying to grow. We are intending to grow. We've got some things coming up that they're kind of moving from the back burner to the front burner, but kind of can't talk about it yet. But we get, the bigger our platform is, the more appealing it is to the guests, because then they get more people laying eyes on their amazingness and what they come to share. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do that. Click the like button and click the bell if you want to know when our shows are going to happen. We might do pop-up shows. I'm thinking about doing that, and this way you'll always know when our shows are coming. So without any further ado, hi Aage, how are you?
I am wonderful. I just don't know any other way to do it. But this thing came up fairly quickly. And when you suggested that, yeah, I wouldn't call it a revenge show, but kind of, like you said, yeah, it's fair game. When I interviewed you, you can interview me. So it could get interesting because the word secrets got in the middle of it. And there is a few things that I have actually never talked about. But I do want to say that for everybody out there, how do you like our new abode?
It's pretty cute, huh?
Yeah, I love this place. This is good.
Let me see. Let me go to the chat room. Oh yeah, it looks okay over there on YouTube. Interesting. All right. Hi guys, everybody in the chat room. If you have a question for Aage, put it in capital letters so I can see it quickly, okay? Because I don't keep the chat window up the whole time. All right, guys.
Yeah.
So most everybody.
I'm at your mercy for the whole 30 minutes here, so just go for it.
Okay, bring in the guillotine. No. Off with his head. Thanks for being here, Aage. I know
You're so welcome. We always have fun.
It's a labor of love. Yeah. So you guys, most everybody who is here likely knows Aage. I'm just going to say a few words about him off the cuff. Aage is an author. He's got a couple of books, and we're going to talk about them soon. He is the creator of the Universal Consciousness Show, which is where I met Aage. And now together with Tom, we created Broadcast Team Alpha. And here we are 5 years later. Aage is a researcher. He is a traveler. He is a metaphysician. He is a quantum physicist, backyard quantum physicist. I think that's fair to say, right?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. And he's a pilot. And we're going to dig in a little bit and find out about some other things. Like, we all know that he came from Norway. His favorite thing to say is that he's imported, and often talks about the farm back home. My question is, Aage, what was the farm really like? Was it a dairy farm, or was it an agricultural farm? And how labor intensive was it? What was it like?
When I was a little kid, we had cows that we were doing dairy, and we sold it off to wherever it went. But after my age of about 10 or so, it became more like just wheat, barley, and grains and things like that. So we didn't really have any animals to speak for, except 2 horses. We had that, and they had them a long time. They became families, so we just couldn't see getting rid of them.
Ah, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. And Norway is beautiful, but you felt restricted, constricted, limited there? What was it?
Well, it was not the land of opportunity as America was at the time. No, that's changed now. But it's still, I wanted to figure out what would I really enjoy doing in my life. And that's where I ran into a problem. I just couldn't see myself being a farmer the rest of my life. There's nothing wrong with farming. It was wonderful. I had a lot of free time, and I worked at my own schedule, which was usually 24 hours a day in the seasons. But it was fun. It was okay, but I just couldn't see doing it the rest of my life. So we sold the farm, and I left and went to the United States to become a pilot. And that was tough. Oh, that was tough. Coming from the farm to a foreign country with slight language barriers and all the complicated things to learn, that was hard for me. I wanted to quit so bad. I could almost taste it, but I couldn't. 2 reasons for that. First of all, I burned my bridge. I had nothing to go back to. And the second one was, I couldn't go back, and everybody back there told me I was an idiot when I left. I couldn't go back and prove them right.
Yeah.
So
well, it
I
turned out.
stayed.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I stayed, and once I was done with flight school and I got my first job, everything was simple. It was scary before I got to what I wanted to do. Then from there on, I never worked a day in my life. I always had fun doing something.
So you knew you wanted to come and be a pilot, specifically that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into one of my other questions. What's the most difficult thing you've ever done?
The most difficult thing, I don't really know.
Well, flight school sounded pretty difficult.
Yeah, it was, but I learned how to do these things, from other people in the business, and I picked their brains. And I had a partner in the flight school and the air taxi operation and the air carrier. So I learned from him when it came to the economic part from it. He learned from me when it came to the aviation, the rules and regulations. So we overlapped really good. He was a magician when it came to money. When we started out with nothing, we had decided to buy a flight school that was fledgling. They had hardly nothing going on. They had 1 or 2 airplanes. And he went to the banker and he came back and he said, we bought 3 airplanes. I said, we did? And he's, yeah, I just borrowed the money. He said he borrowed the money at the bank with no payment for 3 months. So we had time to build up the cash flow so we could start making payments.
That's pretty adventurous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very
But
adventurous. So when you were flying a lot, I imagine, knowing you the way that I know you, I can imagine that you worked probably around the clock. All of
it is.
those hours that you logged up in the sky, have you ever seen any unidentified flying
Oh, yeah.
objects or things that you've never talked about, or, you know?
I have talked about some of them. I've seen several of them. And one of them flew right underneath my airplane, about 400 feet or so. And I got a real good look at it. They had windows on the side, and it looked strange. It looked like kind of like a skateboard, but going up at the edges. But that was, it was not a flying disc. It was kind of like a flying skateboard. It looked strange, but it was. And I think I talked about most of those on the on different shows. There's another one that I had a cigar that just flew right in front of me. I think I was leaving Omaha, going down to the burn center in Houston or something. And we were going, I think it was through Kansas. I think we had already made it to Kansas possibly. And I saw this thing just flew right in front of me. It looked like a pencil, probably proportionally about that long. Of course, it was several miles away, so it was probably maybe around 50 foot long. But still, it went so fast I could hardly follow it with my eyes. And I looked over at the co-pilot and I said, "Did you see that?" He looked at me and he said and didn't say a thing, nothing. And I asked him again one more time, and he didn't say anything. So we landed, and I figured I'd leave it alone. But later I discovered that he was a born-again Christian, and everything that you see that is not written up in the Bible, or he can't explain, those are demons. So I can understand that, and I can live with that. It wasn't that he was ignoring me. He was just kind of protecting himself, and that was okay. So
So you were definitely getting the message, and this was, not now where everything is, well, a lot of things are coming to light. So back in that day, it was right. Don't see, don't tell. Right. I didn't see anything, and you just keep flying.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Did
Of
you?
course, we were a private company, but if you worked for the airlines and it talked about UFOs back in the, in the 80s, and yeah, you'd be out the door. They
Right.
didn't want to hear it.
That's interesting. So that just,
Yeah, but
adds to what.
I had two incidents that I maybe want to mention, because I don't think I've ever talked about this. I think there were two times when I was in the air wandering, things were going on, and I wondered if I would make it back alive.
Really? What happened?
One time I was flying, fishing people up into Canada. And for those of you that has flown over Canada, you fly for hours without seeing a light on the ground. And it doesn't matter much what airplane you fly, you still fly for hours. So we were heading off to a place up there called Stony Rapids. It's way, way, way up north in the North Territory. And we had called ahead because the navigation aids in the area, they weren't on. There were nothing to navigate electronically by. So what we did, we called ahead to the operator at the airport next to the, the lakes and all. And he was going to turn on the radio beacon at the airport. So I trusted that. We headed up northwest, and I think I had flown for about 4 or 5 hours. We should be really getting close, but I had no needle. I couldn't find the station. And I knew that I did not have fuel enough to make it back or go anywhere. So if that radio beacon, if I couldn't find it, I would have to land in the swamp somewhere. And you know, there are bears up there.
Yeah.
They're not that friendly.
Yeah, you'd be a snack. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a snack. And there were 6 of us in the airplane, so it'll be 6 snacks. But
Mhm.
I climbed up a little bit and we looked around. I looked around and I just happened to see the flashing blue and white light way over on the horizon. So I had missed the airport with probably about 5 miles.
Ah,
So then I went over and landed. And if I had missed that one, I would have gone on and we would have run out of fuel and I would have landed in the
bear's den.
wilderness. Yeah.
Yeah, the bear's den. Okay.
So that was a close one. And I
Yeah.
tell you, that particular thing right there is the first time I tell anybody, because that was not much. I mean, flying for 5 hours, dead reckoning, and then miss it by 5 miles is pretty good anyway. But it was really a close call.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Wow.
And there's a quick other story too that I have not mentioned, and that is I was flying money, cash, and checks, and gold coins, and whatever the Federal Reserve transported around the country. When they needed something, they called me, and then I did the flight. And I was leaving the Midwest, going to Denver, and we ran into, actually, I was by myself on that one. I ran into freezing rain, and that builds up really fast on an airplane that is going that fast. And I wasn't worried about that because I had de-icing equipment. So, no problem. All you do is flip a switch and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
But I flipped the switch and the de-icing on one wing came on and the other wing did not.
Uh-oh.
That meant that probably was a leak somewhere where the fluid that kept the wing, the alcohol that kept the wing wet, there was a pipe that has broken.
Uh-oh.
And I was flying out there and I could feel that I was losing lift on one wing. So I just kept, I had to turn the wing in to keep the airplane level. And by the time I got down on the approach and came down to the airport, which was a really bad weather, I think I had to go down to about 200 feet before I saw anything. And then my controls was all the way compensated for the dead wing, so to speak. If that had been a little bit further, I would not have been able to control the airplane. And that is not a good thing.
Yeah. So those are 2 close calls. What do you think you were just lucky, or what was that? Was it divine intervention, or?
The one in Canada may have been,
Mm-hmm.
because I almost missed that airport.
Mm-hmm.
But
So,
the one in Denver, I think that just kind of, I don't know, it could have happened.
yeah. Yeah. So maybe you had somebody looking out for you. So you have done really well with your book, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. So that's some heavy duty, quantum language, quantum mechanics, metaphysics.
Yeah.
When was your absolute first thought about metaphysics or the universe, or like
First, in relation to metaphysics, was probably when I was about 11 or 12 years old, when I first saw my first flying disc in the sky back in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
And that that was back then, but I think after I came to the United States, I was so busy flying and being in the business world for 23 years that I really didn't have time to do much. When I quit
Yeah,
flying, I retired and quit flying,
yeah,
that's when I started to develop the mind and going after those things, start
yeah,
studying and learning more and talking to people that knew more than I did. And I still do
yeah.
that. I talk to you every day. So
Well, I have a question kind of related to that. You're really smart. Do you know your IQ?
oh yeah, I did a few of those tests, but IQs are overrated.
They are overrated. I was just curious. You don't have to tell us. I was just curious. Um, so you had high intelligence with a curiosity of seeing something that you're not allowed to talk about when you were little, and then again when you were up in the sky. How did that spark get lit for you that you got so heavy into the contents of your book and helping people understand universal consciousness?
I think that the source for much of what is in the book come from a universal download that I had. I was sitting in deep meditation, and then suddenly I saw light around me, all around me, and then I saw concept, ideas, invention, people, and all kinds of things floating around in this soup. And when I concentrate on one thing, it popped out, and then I could see it. When I concentrated on something else, the first thing collapsed and went back in the soup, and the new one came out. So, and this was very quick. It was less than 10 seconds, and it was over.
Wow.
But I had the memory of it, and there was so much. There were thousands and thousands of concepts and ideas that floated by. And afterwards, I couldn't really figure out what was that all about. What can I do with this one?
Mhm.
And it was very strong that write it down.
Mhm.
So I grabbed a yellow pad and a pen, and I wrote. I sat
Right,
there writing for about 2 days.
right.
And beyond that,
That's a download. Yeah.
I started typing it out, and then it ended up being this book. So
Yeah. Yes.
that's
And you can get that book on
Amazon.
Broadcasting Alpha website and on
Yeah,
Amazon. Yeah. So
yeah,
Augie, most people that have downloads know that there is a certain connection outside of themselves. Do you
yeah.
have a connection like that?
I feel I do, and I see I do. I am not aware of it all the time, but I have someone that I have been acquainted with for a very long time, since 1970, the Christmas 1972, when I met him the first time back in the woods back in Norway, because I went to flight school and I went home for Christmas, and I walked off into my old forest that we had on the
Mhm.
farm. And I went up on of course, this I've actually talked about before, but I went up on, there's a grave mound, a Viking grave mound, that I went up there and sat down and meditated.
Mhm.
And then I heard this sound that kind of like was somebody turning on a faucet, the water running. And that didn't make sense. I opened my eyes up, and this is man standing right there in front of me, about 6, 7, 8 feet away. And he was 7 foot tall and lit up like a light bulb,
Mhm.
and scared the daylight out of me. So I
Were
ran
you
off.
hung over that day or what? No.
Yeah, probably. But
No.
I
No, but seriously, was this part of your initiation into more expanded thinking?
I think so. Yeah, I
Mhm.
absolutely think so, because that was in the very beginning of my kind of development. because
Yeah.
I ran off into the woods and I heard this voice in my head saying, "Where are you going?" So I came back and we had a conversation. And that was an interesting thing, actually. It was mostly him talking, me listen deal, but I did get some questions in. So he told me a few
Well,
things that he would suggest that I did. He didn't tell me, but he said, if you do, we will help you. And then there were several things that he came in, but he also told me some of the things that I would screw up. And I remember when I got to that point here in the US, I knew he told me that, but I still screwed it up. And he also
well,
told me that you are not very good at listening. You must learn to listen to people with knowledge you do not have.
that was good
And
advice.
I've never been very good at that.
So you still have conversations with him, right?
And not very often, but I do.
Yeah. So there's a question in the chat room. I think this is probably a good time. Oops, let me pull it back up. So Adrian wants to know how we came up with the name of our station, Broadcast Team Alpha. And Adrian, I don't even know. It was Tom and Aage and myself on a Zoom, just kicking things around, just kicking words around, kind of just creative bouncing words around.
Yeah.
And it came up. I think Tom, we probably had broadcast and
No.
Alpha, and then Tom finally put it all together for us.
No, that was that term, Broadcast Team Alpha, came from you, because we had about 5 or 6 different suggestions that we were bouncing around, and neither one of them felt very good. So I think we left one conversation, we didn't have a decision, and we came back, and that's when you said, I think you slept on it possibly, but you said Broadcast Team Alpha. That was
your Adrian.
Yes, there you go.
So Aage, here's the question.
All right.
It's from Peter. Oh gosh, I hate to ruin your last name by Carnivale?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. He asks, Aage, if we are in a hologram mind-created universe, does that mean that we are literally creating our own reality? And if so, how do other civilizations enter that hologram? That's a big question.
Because there are a hologram within a hologram within a hologram that was placed in another hologram that is inserted to the 3rd and the 15th hologram. They are both parallel and they are linear. Now, quantum physics tell us we live in a mind-created universe, and that goes as far that everything in our existence is holographic in nature. But that doesn't make it unreal, because we create a real hologram. So there is real here, and we create everything within our perception. That doesn't mean that you are non-existent, that I create all of you. You create also, but we create an interaction between the two of us. So we're both real within the hologram. But outside of us, each one of us, there is actually nothing. And there was one physicist that date back, I think, into the 1950s. He said that we cannot imagine a universe to exist unless there is somebody observing it. So in other words, the universe that we see does not exist if we are not observing or interacting with it. There's some good explanation on that in here if you want to find out also how this applies to our existence. Since it is a mind-created universe, why don't we create things that we like instead of all the garbage that happens to that our brother-in-law help us create, you know? I always have to bring that brother-in-law in because he's a good guy, but he's a good one to pick on. Now, if we take this further, we can create our future before we have to live it. We go within ourselves and we decide what we want. Put mental, colorful images with it. Feed it with love, emotion, and intention. And then you roll that into a ball, place it in the future at a time-coded event, and then go back and forth and visit it every day. Now you get drawn up this timeline in this holographic projection that you have created in your mind, placed in the future. So you're following that timeline to it. When the time comes for that time-coded event to happen, you just walk into it. And in here, I explain how to do that. It's simple, not easy, because you got to do it.
Yeah, it takes, you have to exert your will in order to do it. So, Aage, we're coming down to the close of the show because we usually only do 30 minutes. We're going to go a little bit over. You mentioned to me about martial arts, a form that you took. And I want to hear about it. And then I want to add a real life experience. So tell us about it, please.
That's something that I hardly ever talk about. I don't think I've talked about my martial art experience at all on any shows. Just kind of mentioned it in passing, because most people, when they think martial art, they think violence, they think fighting, and that's not necessarily all it. Because here in America, that is what it is. But if you find a teacher that was taught in the Far East, in the Himalayas, China, Japan, they have a different mentality. Especially what I learned was the art of the ninja. That the first few years, it's all mental programming and mental development, mind development. You get to the point where you walk around your opponent's head, you know what he's going to do before he does. If this was taught in schools, you wouldn't have delinquents like we have today. There will be there will be mental giants by the time they were 16 or 17 because of the training they would get. And I know we're running out of time here, but
Nori, it's okay. It's all right. So Aage visited, I don't know where the heck I was. Maybe it was Florida. It was Florida. Aage visited Florida, and it was Thanksgiving time. And we were driving to meet some people, and we stopped to get gas, and I went into the convenience store, and there was some man in there who, you know, I've been a nurse for a long time, who was absolutely, you know, cracked out or on meth or something. And he was really scary. And it was getting escalated, and his anger was at the person who was at the register. So when I came out, I said, wow, Aage, there's some guy in there that's really scary. And the next thing I knew, I don't even know how he got from the car inside that door so quickly. It was like, and I'm like, no, don't go, you know, because I was scared for him. And then just a few minutes later, Aage comes out talking to this guy like they're good old friends. So I had no idea how you were able to change this man's whole energy. And it has remained an enigma to me, but over the years, I kind of understand now. But I just want people to know that you do have some very magical, mystical, and powerful energy that you work with. And I saw it in action that day, and I felt it made me feel really safe. So I just think people should know that part of you also.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I haven't thought about this one since it happened.
Yep. Yep.
Well,
So
thank
that
you.
was pretty. Yeah, absolutely. So Aage, if you could talk to the whole world and the world was listening, and if I saw your question, Donna, come join us at the Mastermind Connection on Sundays, and we can definitely kick around questions like you're asking. So please join us over there. If you could talk to the whole world, Aage, well, let's say the whole universe, and the universe was listening, what would you say?
Yes, first send that email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com, and we'd love to see you come and visit.
Yeah, I put that in the chat. Thank you.
If I could talk to the whole universe, then I would have to use a language that is not one of words. Because anything outside of Earth, there is another language, a spiritual language, which is one of emotion, love, and vivid, colorful images and intention. This is going to get, I hope I understand what I'm going to say first. I would feel the love and intend for it to be everywhere, and see people hugging each other, and know things are good and safe. And then I would send that everywhere. Because we have been, we've had that question on Broadcast Team Alpha, and people tell us wonderful things. But you added another aspect to it, the whole universe. I never thought about that before, because they don't speak English.
That's right. That's right. And I
But
love that, Aage. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there is this universal language. Everybody understands it. They may not see it or feel it right away, but your heart, wherever you are, your heart feels it.
Absolutely. And this is what Aage just did, is exactly what we do together at the Mastermind on Sunday. We imprint the vision of how we would love the world and humanity to be, and more together. And it's so powerful. Aage, thank you. Thank you so much. It was really fun peeling back getting you to loosen your tie tonight and have a conversation with us. Yeah, it was good. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me here. And this was fun. We should do it more often.
Yeah, we will. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for the lively chat that has happened. And don't forget, Sunday is the paranormal show at 8 p.m. And of course, Tuesday is the Broadcast Team Alpha show. And you never know what kind of amazing guests we're going to have on next week. So much love, everybody. Stay happy. Beam love. And once again, thank you, Aage. Thank you so much. Thanks, man.
Thank you for having me here. This